So as I mentioned before, last year we tried to find a way in January to help with those resolutions or creating some structure around our lives in order to live a better life this year. What we used was one word. This year we're going to talk about 3 simple rules that we can live by over the next 3 weeks. And today we're going to look at the rule, do no harm. Now rules, we love them, we hate them. They're just part of life. But when we create rules and we create different structure in our life, oftentimes it helps us live a better life in some way. But sometimes when somebody sees something like a rule that works really well, they think, wow, we need to add to that. And you know what? This is what happened to the religious leaders in Jesus' time and before Jesus' time. Do you realize that in Jesus' day, there were 613 rules or laws that all had to follow in order to be good people of faith? 613 of them. Well, Jesus was asked of these 613 rules, which were most important. And he was able to take 613 rules and really just bring it down to a couple of points. What he said was this. He said, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. And then he added, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. These are the rules. Now, I think that's pretty simple, and that's pretty fantastic. Love God, love your neighbor, love yourself. Jesus took 613 and put it down to that, which I thought was really great. Now, Paul kind of put a little structure around that about what does it look like. And this is how Eugene Peterson puts it in the message about what it looks like to live into those rules. Paul says, bless your enemies, no cursing under your breath. Laugh with happy friends when they're happy. Share tears when they're down. Get along with each other. Don't be stuck up. Make friends with nobodies. Don't be a great somebody. Don't hit back. Discover the beauty in everyone. If you've got it in you, get along with everybody. Don't insist on getting even. That's not for you to do. I'll do the judging, says God. I'll take care of it. Our scriptures tell us that if you see your enemy hungry, go buy that person lunch. Or if he's thirsty, get him a drink. Your generosity will surprise him with goodness. Don't let evil get the best of you. Get the best of evil by doing good. I like that. I think that's a pretty good model for how it is that we could go about trying to live into these rules. Well, today, as I mentioned earlier at the Garden, we're having our first membership class. And for those of you who don't know, actually the Garden is a United Methodist Church. Now, the United Methodist Church was founded by really 2 guys. One guy, John Wesley, and his brother, Charles Wesley. Beautiful, good-looking guys there. And they were both amazing men. In fact, they were men who grew up with structure. Why? Because they grew up in a family of about 18. We think 15 of them lived the fullness of life. But with 15 children in your family, you have to somehow create some order, which from what I understand, Susanna Wesley was pretty gall-darn good at. Both of these guys were very learned, were very talented. Charles was a musician, and John, well, he came to the U.S. to try to transform the U.S. with this wonderful gospel that he shared, and he had a miserable time, and so he headed back to England and headed back to Oxford, where his brother, the musician, the younger brother, had put together a society, a little group called the Holy Club. The Holy Club was a group of guys who got together on a regular basis to try to live into the tenets of the Common Book of Prayer. Now, the Common Book of Prayer sounds like, well, yeah, you get together and you pray a little bit. No, it's pretty complicated. You got to pray in the morning, and you got to pray at noon, and you got to ask for forgiveness on a regular basis. And it was a whole big structure, and they found that that was a good structure for them. And not alone, not just the few of them. It actually, the Holy Club became a pretty popular thing. It became a very popular thing, and people started joining these holy clubs. And soon, John and Charles could no longer look over every holy club to make sure people weren't sinning and were doing what a holy club person should do. So they did what any learned person does. They created 3 rules. Rules that the holy clubs would live by in order to be able to be holy clubs that were very much like the original holy clubs. Gee, it sounds like the church, doesn't it? Well, the first rule, as we mentioned earlier, is pretty simple. Do no harm. But what it seems to happen is that John Wesley ended up in the same position as all of those people who were putting rules together earlier. You know, the guys who realized, oh, do no harm, there's a lot of room in that. And so he decided in about 16 points to figure out what do no harm really, really means. And I'm just going to share a few of them down to my very favorite one. He says, do no harm, you know, like taking the name of God in vain, like the profaning of the day of the Lord, either by doing ordinary work therein or by buying and selling. Drunkenness, my favorite. Buying or selling spirituous liquors or drinking them, unless of cases of extreme necessity. I knew I'd love Wesley. He goes on and he talks about slaveholding and fighting and quarreling and brawling and buying and selling and stealing and all kinds of things. So he gets very specific on what it means to do no harm. Well, that was in the 1700s, come in today's time, and there is this wonderful man who has since passed away, Bishop Reuben Job, who was able to get that right back to where it really needed to be, to the 3 simple rules. And he simply said, what we have to do is to do no harm. In all circumstances, each individual commit to doing no harm. He's written it in a little book, and I encourage everybody to read it. It's been on the market for a little bit, so it's a good deal on Amazon right now. 3 simple rules, Reuben Job. Do no harm. Now, today you may be sitting there going, oh, I got this one in the bag. I don't harm people. I don't brawl. I don't do all of those things. I'm a good person. I do no harm. But do you really? In today's world where technology and the lives we live are all functioning in a particular way very, very quickly, sometimes harm just kind of sneaks in and we don't know how. Here is a perfect example that I experienced just this past week. Now, most people here have Facebook accounts, I'm sure. Most people here are familiar with Facebook in one way or another. Facebook is a resource that can be used to help you get to know your neighbors or a variety of different people. And one Facebook page I was on, there was an interesting interaction this past week. Now, this gal gets on and says, hey, I'm engaged. And so people start responding. Congratulations on your engagement. That is amazing. The post after post. Woo, good for you. You're the perfect couple. You're this, you're that. About 3 days later, not kidding, she posts again. Hey guys, I am looking for a home for a 3-year-old cat. My fiance is allergic to cats. And now I have to find a new home for my sweet little kitty, because my cat can't live here with my fiancé. First post after that. Really? You're going to kick out a member of your family because you have fallen in love and you want to get married? Next post. Well, if your partner really loved you, your partner would get allergy shots. Woman responds back. Yes, we have checked into that and actually have determined that the number of shots that my fiance would need are a lot, and we can't afford them. Oh, really? Have you heard about the Affordable Care Act, which goes on to a whole other tirade about the Care Act, and this person's opinion, and this person's opinion, and this person's opinion, and by the way, I don't know any of these people. I'm trying to get to know my neighborhood. Maybe. Okay, so that all goes on. So then the woman, you can tell, has been thinking about it a little bit, and she says, for whoever takes this cat, I will pay for the health care for the cat for at least a year. So if you find somebody who wants my cat, we can work this out. To which somebody responds, no kidding. Well, if you can afford health care for your cat, you can afford allergy shots, I'm sure. It goes on and on and on until finally one woman says, I am sorry, I can no longer support this marriage. I pull my congratulations, and it was followed up with this. Really? Really, friends? I mean, call me crazy, but does that feel like a healthy conversation, a healthy interaction? Does that feel like a conversation that you would have around a dinner table? Would you say something mean to me, Troy, and follow it with a... Really? Yes, technology is absolutely wonderful and fantastic, but it is hiding us behind screens and behind different things that give us more courage than we really should have. The next time you get onto Facebook, can you say, do no harm? Do no harm. The other thing I have noticed this week is that there are a lot of people who harm themselves in that place. Oversharing. Hurting people who need to be loved and cared for, sharing things that I don't really want to know about. But what does that say when you're willing to harm yourself? Do no harm. How can we fight against this with peace and love and caring for one another? Our culture is changing. 140 characters at a time, our culture is changing. We are harming each other on a regular basis with a tweet, with a text, with a post, with let it out. Friends, today here, we as a community of faith, it's time to say we commit to do no harm using technology. We commit to be the best people we can and to do no harm. Now, in that reading I shared earlier of Wesley in his 16 point, Wesley refers to slaves, and I'm here today that most of us probably think that we live in a world today where we don't have to think about that. In fact, we would pull that totally and completely. Well, there are 27 million slaves in the world today, friends. 27 million people who work in situations and live in situations beyond their control, under the control of someone else. 27 million. They say it's because in a very short period of time, we've gone from being 2 billion people to 7 billion people. And it creates an environment where you have a surplus of people, where the rich who have a lot can find ways to take advantage of the other ones. There's a website out there, and I'm keenly aware of this, by the way. I don't know what it feels like to be you right now, because you haven't had the week I've had in preparing for this. There's a website out there called slaveryfootprint.org. So I went there, and I think that I am a fairly responsible consumer in the world. I think that I seek to be responsible. And so what I did was I took their little test. They have a little test that you can take. And, well, I have to be honest with you. I learned that I am a person who employs 43 slaves. I'm a person who employs 43 slaves. Now, I decided to go ahead and figure out exactly what it is. It's mostly around nuts and spices, salt and pepper that is harvested by people who have no control over their lives, that are working in slave-like conditions. That tomato on your hamburger in the restaurant, well, it may come from a field managed by a company that employs undocumented immigrants, and we all know that story of people who are living on very little and then sending lots of money home to try to care for their family. Those of us who wear leather shoes, the shirts on our back, all different kinds of things have impact on people we don't know their names and we do not see. Now, what we eat and what we wear is only part of it. The biggest challenge is our technology. Our technology is driven, electronics, by some raw materials that are mined in the Congo. It's called, coltan. And it is mined in the Congo and can only be mined by younger people because of the danger around mining. Most of the people who mine this coltan are between the ages of 13 and 17 and make a couple bucks a day. What they do is they then send this raw material on to China, where then, of course, there are abundance of people who then find a way to take that raw material, and those factories are mostly filled by teens as well. Now, my desire here today is not to say bad you people with iPhones, because I have one as well. It's simply to raise awareness that our privilege and way of life does have an impact on other people. It's simply to say, is there something I can do differently to bring hope into the world. It's simply to say that we're going to commit to doing no harm in this new year. See, the truth about faith is, if somebody in the world is hurting, if one of God's children is hurting, then we are all hurting because we are all in this together in some way or another. Now, I can guarantee you there are people in this room who marched yesterday. There are people in this room who think the people who marched yesterday are crazy. And we're all in this room. That is beautiful. Wesley has been known to say that we may not all think alike, but indeed we can all love alike, and I will go ahead and add, and we can be people who commit to not harm one another no matter what. Today, I simply want to ask each and every one of us to consider taking that test, or to consider how I might be able to bring a little hope to a situation. How I might be able to reach out on that technology to see how I could connect with an immigrant worker in some way, or how I can connect with someone who is undocumented and what that exactly means. How I could support people who have been harmed in some way, be it Black Lives Matter or the Center for Child Abuse and Exploitation. I can have an impact in some way to stop the sex slave industry, or to consider the Charter for Compassion, or how I could be involved, or even the new effort called Do No Harm, which is a group of people that are simply just trying to find some funds to explore and to study violence in the United States, because it's not really a very popular subject to study right now. There are lots of opportunities. And we as people of faith have to step into those opportunities in one way or another. Friends, it's time for us to stand up and say, do no harm. It is time for each and every one of us to say, I am committing to love the least, the last, and the lost, and to do no harm. I can make a difference. I can make a difference. I am a gardener. And I am committing to do no harm. Will you pray with me? God of grace and love to you, we give thanks for this day. We give thanks for simple yet complex
When did the term doctor get treated with such reverence?
Yes, and that too. We give you thanks and praise for each person in this room and for the commitment to do no harm. Amen. Hey, that was a little prequel to, there is the Hippocratic Oath, am I saying that right? Where a doctor says, do no harm. In the movie Patch Adams, Robin Williams takes that just a little bit farther, and go ahead and take a look at this closing clip about doing no harm.